Hello, welcome to Revelator Alf. Today I'm talking about writing and how to make your writing engaging and interesting for your readers. Now, there are lots of different aspects to writing, and it depends on the style of writing that you're doing, will determine what you'll need to introduce. So, for example, if you're writing a review or a reflective piece, then it needs to have an overview, it needs to have a flow that connects all the dots in the middle, if you like, and then needs to have some kind of conclusion at the end. If you're writing a report or writing a document, for example, then you have to get all your facts in a row. It has to have a start, and the facts needs to start to follow a trail, if you like, and all the way to the end, to the conclusion. So there is little in the way of being expressive in a kind of a document or a review. It's more about getting the facts down on paper or on your laptop or whatever it is. If you're writing an expressive written piece, I should say, then you need to draw upon what you know and what your passions are in life or in literature. So, for example, whenever I'm writing a piece, I tend to write more expressive pieces, more opinion-based pieces. I tend to draw on my other passions, whether it be from sports, whether it be from motorcycling, the environment, or whether it be from something in the music industry or the movie industry. So I look at elements within those other passions that I have, and I try to introduce that into my writing, whether it's a quote, whether it's a reflective piece, whether it's some kind of comparative piece as well. So find what is interesting to you, then try to draw on those interests, draw on those passions, and try and inject that into your writing. Now, one of the key things to remember is that your writing, whatever you write, may not be interesting to anybody else. It may not be engaging. But one of the first critics that you have to overcome is yourself. You have to overcome your own critique. So you have to look at the work that you've written and ask yourself, would I enjoy reading this? So if the answer is yes, and it has to be an honest yes, then you're halfway there. If you think there are some elements that are not quite right, then you obviously need to address those and maybe review, change words, change the phrasing, or whatever, change the flow. So that's the first hurdle to get over. You know, read your piece and then review it yourself, give yourself some feedback, and then look to put it out there. Again, there might not be an audience for your kind of work, so you need to ask yourself: is your work there for others to enjoy? Are you trying to make it in a commercial sense? Or are you just trying to put your work out there, your feelings out there? So you've got to look at your goals and what you're heading towards within your writing. Certainly that's what I do with a lot of my work, and how I write. I tend to write expressively, and it comes from within me, and also I draw from my experiences. I'm not necessarily looking for an audience. However, that is the ultimate goal. I want people to read my work, and I want them to enjoy it, and also have a bit of fun along the way, but also feel the threads of passion that I feel as well. It goes without saying, of course, that any written piece needs to be planned. You need to have a plan of what you want to do. You need to get your words down, either on paper or on your laptop, and you need to experiment with words, with collections of words, with meanings. and look at how other people, how other authors write in whatever context they're writing. So whether they're writing novels, books, whether they're writing poetry, whether they're writing magazine articles, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to do, look at how others are writing, but don't necessarily, and I certainly would advise against this, do not try and emulate another writer, and certainly don't try and copy what they're writing. But what I would say is draw upon those experiences, draw upon other people's writings, and see, okay, well, they're doing it in one way, but actually I might be able to do it in another way. So planning is really important, getting all your thoughts down, getting things down on paper or on the laptop, and experimenting and drawing from experiences. And that's how you'll engage yourself, you'll engage your writing, you make it interesting for yourself, because writing is a solitary experience. So you need to have some way of, keeping yourself engrossed in the idea that you're trying to portray. Or the story you're trying to tell. Whatever you're trying to do, you are telling a story. It could be a factual story, it could be a fictional story, it could be a romantic story, it could be, a thrilling story. Whatever it is a story at the end of the day. It's a tale. We are storytellers. Okay, so you need to be able to find something within that actually engages and that attracts people to read, and also keyly, in a key sense, you would ideally want those readers to return back to read your pieces again, or read any future pieces that you have as well. So hopefully this gives you a few tips. It's a very vague video, I know, and a lot of writing is it is objective. It's down to the individual writer, how they see the world, how they view things. So I'll give you one final bit of a tip which I use. And I draw upon this in all of my writing, I would say. And I call it form and flow. Okay, so whatever I'm writing, I use a certain form. So it depends on obviously the style, and depends on what type of piece which I'm writing, as I've already said. So there will be a beginning, a trail of facts, or there will be a thread, whatever it is, and I reach an ultimate conclusion of the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so you'll have a form, whichever form you want to use, but there's also a rhythm as well. So I tend to use, in mathematical terms, like a sine wave. In terms, in my mind, I'm making the piece flow up and down, and I draw from poetry in many ways. I love poetry. I love reading poetry. But would you believe I'm not the greatest fan of poetry in the classical sense? What I am a great fan of is the use of words. Words for me, they confuse me, but they intrigue me in equal measure. So poetry is the epitome of choice words, or false meanings, or whatever it is, and the flow and the rhythm of poetry and the choice of words is really appealing, and that's why I love it so much. And that's also why I enjoy writing poetry from time to time. Not necessarily following a classical form, certainly not following any kind of license, in poetic terms. However, I love to have that flow, that use of the choice use of words, and to make something feel rounded in as poetry can. That's how I would draw on experiences from poems, and I would introduce those into my writing as well. Now, I'm not saying I quote poetry. I'm not saying that I use exactly the same form, or certainly the same rhythm, but I draw upon that when I'm writing as well. So Hopefully this helps you a little bit, maybe answers a few questions about writing and engaging and making something interesting. But just suffice to say, be passionate about your writing, plan your writing, get it down on paper, experiment with words, be your own worst critic, and just experiment for the love of it, and get your work out there. And only you can write what you can write. So hopefully other people will enjoy it. Draw upon your passions, draw upon your experiences, and write in your own style. Okay, thank you.